Hello and welcome to the SMBC Aviation Capital Application Insights webinar. We're so pleased to have you tuned in with us for this session where we're going to give you an overview of who we are and what aircraft lessors do. We'll then go on and give you an insight into our renowned graduate programme where you will hear from some of our graduates, and then we'll talk you through the graduate recruitment journey, covering off top tips for our application form and for interviewing, so you can put yourself to be successful in this process. Our programme was launched in 2013 and is therefore one of the longest running graduate programme in the aircraft leasing industry. I'm delighted today to be joined by three people from the business. Diarmuid, who's one of our early career senior sponsors and also head of our procurement team. Shaurya, who went through the graduate programme a couple of years ago and is now working as an analyst. And Ben, who is a current graduate on our technical team. And they'll be talking to you shortly about their experiences as an SMBC Aviation Capital graduate. We are going to be showing some slides, as you will see behind me, but please don't worry about them too much. You don't need to make notes because we will share the slides and a recording of this session later on today. And it will also be available on our YouTube channel. Diarmuid's now going to give a bit of information about who we are and the history of SMBC Aviation Capital.
Thanks very much, Lucinda. Yes, so SMBC Aviation Capital are a top-tier aircraft lessor. We're owned by a consortium of Japanese companies, SMBC, which stands for Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation. They're one of the biggest banks in Japan. SMFL, a sister company, Sumitomo Mitsui Finance and Lease, and Sumitomo Corporation, who are a large trading house in Japan as well. We're headquartered in Dublin and we have offices all over the globe. Essentially, if you take it from west to east, we have Seattle, Miami, New York, Dublin, Amsterdam, Toulouse, Hamburg, and then into China in Beijing, Hong Kong, Singapore and Tokyo. So it really is a global business. Just to give you a little bit of a brief history about the organisation, we were started in 2001 when a small advisory company here in Dublin was acquired by the Royal Bank of Scotland. They had some assets, aircraft assets, that they realised they didn't have any expertise in and needed to manage them. So they acquired this small consortium, or this small consultancy, to take on that project for them. The business grew very quickly after 9/11 when Royal Bank of Scotland recognised the opportunity with a lot of money leaving the market. And in 2005 we did our first new orders, which were for up to 50 aircraft from both Airbus and Boeing. In 2007, another milestone for us, we moved to a larger office as a growing business and we did our first aviation securitisation. Time moved on, then 2008 we took delivery of our 300th aircraft, so you can see very, very rapid growth as we moved through the years. Come 2012, in the global financial crisis, RBS were struggling with some of the issues they faced and they wanted to sell the business. So that's the point at which the Japanese consortium stepped in and acquired it in a $7.3 billion transaction. They were very supportive and have continued to be very supportive of the business since then. And in 2014, just 2 years later, we did a very large aircraft order with the manufacturers, which total value was about $20 billion. In 2022, another milestone for the business was we acquired a competitor, Goshawk, and merged them into this entity. And in March 2024, we moved into our lovely new headquarter office here in Fitzwilliam Street, called 28 Fitzwilliam. And any of you that do get the opportunity to come in here, do admire the building. It's a fantastic place to work. So what do we actually do in here? Well, we acquire aircraft in a number of ways. The first thing we do is we will go to the manufacturers. For us, that's predominantly Airbus and Boeing. And we will place a speculative order for aircraft. Once we have that order secured, we will then go out to airline customers and see what their interest is and try and do deals with them to actually deliver aircraft to them in the specification that they like to operate. We also do sale and leaseback transactions with airlines. That means the airline themselves would have their own order, but they need to finance the aircraft. So we would do a deal with them where we would finance the aircraft, we would own it, but we would lease it back to them for a period of time. We also acquire aircraft in portfolio transactions with other leasing companies. And likewise, we would trade aircraft with them. So we would sell a portfolio of aircraft that are on lease to airlines to other leasing companies. Other products we do are tax leases, finance leases. We probably have about the broadest range of financing products of any leasing company that's in existence today. To give you a sense of our customers, I mean, most of the airlines that you would be familiar with will be customers of ours. Here close to our headquarters, Ryanair are a customer, Aer Lingus are as well. Lufthansa would be a big customer. Turkish Airlines, United Airlines, ANA, Qantas. Essentially, you know, all the household names that you would be familiar with as airline customers would be customers of ours. And we also have trading partners, other leasing companies that we trade aircraft to, and that's a really strong channel for our business. So that gives you a sense of us as an organisation. And one of the things that our employees always talk about is the strength of our brand and our values. We really do put a lot of emphasis on this with our team, as a result, they find the excellent working environment and culture that we have here in the company really is of interest to them. That's all underpinned by our cultural values of behaving, which are respect, trust and integrity. And they're with the view to ultimately our staff connecting, adapting and being successful and achieving in their career with the company. So those values, you'll see them, they're weaved into our recruitment and selection process and throughout the employee life cycle. So we would encourage you to familiarise yourself with those values and what they mean ahead of submitting any application. So with that, I'll hand you back to Lucinda for a little bit of an overview on the programme itself.
Thanks, Diarmuid. So we have a broad range of opportunities available on our 2026 graduate programme across all of our business functions, and they will be detailed on the graduate page of our website. So before you do submit your application, you'll be able to get a bit more information about them. But we really are looking to engage with graduates from all universities and all degree backgrounds. And in terms of who is eligible to apply, it would be recent graduates, people that are in their final year of studies or coming to the end of a master's degree, who have the right to work in Ireland, or who will be on a Stamp 1G visa that gives them the right to work in Ireland following the completion of their studies. I suppose it's really important for me to emphasise that we really are looking to engage with a diverse range of people, and we do have people across the business who are from all different backgrounds in terms of what they might have studied. And I feel like with the teams on offer that are recruiting for the 2026 intake, there is a real diverse mix of teams there. So hopefully something for most of you that are tuned in today. In terms of the graduate programme itself then, it is a 2-year programme and it has been thoughtfully structured to equip you with the skills, confidence and experience needed to successfully launch your career in aircraft leasing. You will remain in the same team for the 2-year period, so it gives you a really good in-depth experience, so you get great knowledge of that team, what they do, build great relationships and really are at a point where you're adding so much value to the team. Beyond the 2-year programme, you would be considered for potential permanent opportunities depending on business requirements, and plenty of our graduates have gone on to have really successful careers in the business. In terms of the structure and the learning development side of the programme, we really do invest a lot of time and effort into growing our people, and that is a really big part of our people commitment. So you will be able to engage with a tailored learning and development programme, which will include formal learnings, whether that's skills sessions, attending our technical ground school with Bob Bowles, our in-house technical expert that gets really into the nuts and bolts of the aircraft, monthly learning labs, which spans all different topics. It could be AI, engines, customer strategies. There really are different topics every month, so something for everyone to engage with. And then also in the second year of the programme, you do get to be assigned a mentor, so that will give you great professional insight and help build your professional network further. So we really do take a holistic approach to the learning and development side of the programme to really help set you up for long-term success and successful careers in the business. And people have gone on to work in our global offices and also with our shareholders over in Tokyo. But I suppose it's really important to state, like, this is more than just a job and great and meaningful work. There are loads of opportunities to get really involved outside of the day-to-day job. We have a phenomenal CSR program which brings so many opportunities, and we will go into that in a bit more detail shortly. But most of our graduates do get really immersed with this side of SMBC Aviation Capital. There's committees that you can get involved in as well, like Mosaic, which is our DE&I committee. There's plenty of wellbeing initiatives and events, as well as a great sports and social side. So we have a sports and social committee. Again, graduates are involved in that, but there's monthly activities spanning all different things, from hill walking through to go-karting and playing tennis. So there's something for everyone. We are going to show a quick video for you now that gives a bit of colour to this side of the business, and following that, Shaurya and Ben will then talk to their experiences and bring the graduate programme to life for you.
Corporate social responsibility. It's the connection, it's the giving, and it's feeling responsible for the social environment in which you operate. We're really privileged here. This organisation has the ability, the means and the disposition to lean in and help.
Our CSR committee strives to reflect the values of our staff, customers and shareholders. One of our objectives is to be more hands-on with the charities, because it can be easy to donate a lump sum of money, but that can distance you a little bit. So once you're on the ground, you're working with them, you're making a connection with them.
We feel that the changes that we're helping to make will last and will grow and will help support more and more change.
The business supports numerous charities across different areas, from Belvedere Youth Club to Together Academy. We're also partnered with the National Gallery of Ireland. We support Laura Lynn, we support Deborah Ireland. We do days like our Difference Day every June, where all of our people from across the world come together in Dublin, and for one day we work on a project in an area of the city that is socially disadvantaged.
I think the difference in how SMBC Aviation Capital approaches it is the fact that we're given the freedom to build relationships with our charity partners. We get to learn a lot from them, they get to learn a lot from us.
When we were developing this building here in Fitzwilliam 28, we developed this idea that we would build a new training academy on the lower ground floor of our building here, which would allow students to really get a flavour of what it's like to work in corporate Dublin in the city centre. Our lower ground floor is a training academy that Together Academy are going to run.
We're here in Dublin, we have fantastic relationships with various partners in the city, but we're also a global business. So we're in communities all over the world, from Malawi to India.
We focus on different kind of social issues, social impact, be it Pratiak, our charity partners in India, Do Slumping, Open Arms Malawi. It's just the kind of passion that different people have in the business to be more caring, to understand what actually goes on in the world.
If you work in a job like we do and you have so many benefits and opportunities like we do, you forget that other people don't have that as well. It definitely makes you reflect and think about what we have and what other people don't, and what we can do to help the people who are less fortunate than we are.
Writing a check helps. Everybody appreciates financial support. Sending people is just as important as writing a check, if not more. Just showing your willingness to help is very important, because it's such a meaningful, worthwhile, impactful journey.
We've had a good long look now and good experience around what good looks like in this space. And we see enormous potential in integrating your CSR work into your daily life.
The company values very much encompass the personal as well as the business. The purpose of the Mosaic Committee is to represent everybody across the business throughout the globe, whatever age they are, whatever life stage they are, whatever their culture, whatever their background. It's really about championing diversity.
Sports and Social Committee works out of the Dublin office as well as the overseas offices. We give everyone in all offices the opportunity to organise social events that they think might be beneficial to their teams. Having that opportunity to break down barriers allows people to broach more difficult conversations when they're in work maybe.
SMBC Aviation Capital's committees, be it Sports and Social, CSR or Mosaic, are all focused on the greater good.
Showing leadership in this area is really important to our staff, our shareholders, our executive team, and to us personally. It's an important part of what we do.
There will always be, in this world in which we live, an opportunity to help, and we intend to take those opportunities.
What gives you the biggest smile about what you do? It's not leasing planes. It's some of the great things that we can do because we trade airplanes.
Shaurya, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Obviously, you're currently working now as an analyst in the financial and commercial analysis team, but maybe you could just tell us a bit about your background. What did you study and how did you come to be on the graduate programme at SMBC Aviation Capital?
Thank you so much, Lucinda. Hello, everyone. It is absolutely great to be here today to share my experiences over the last 3 years at SMBC Aviation Capital. I'm currently working as an analyst in the commercial analysis team. Before that, I was part of the graduate program in the same team. I completed my master's in international management from Trinity College Dublin, and prior to that, I did my bachelor's degree in business administration and finance back in India. Growing up, I've always been fascinated about airplanes and the capability the machine has to enable people to travel across the world. At an airport, I would find the closest spot to the window at overlooking the runway, trying to recognize airplanes, the aircraft type, the airlines that it would come from the tail signs. I also knew that I wanted to work directly in an industry, which was a niche industry, to build expertise along the way as I progressed in my career. And when I came to Dublin, I quickly realized that this was the birthplace of the aircraft leasing industry, and SMBC allows for people to apply for the program that come from diverse backgrounds. So it was a great opportunity for me to work in an industry that I was so passionate about without having that technical or engineering expertise. What again stood out for SMBC to me was their application process. It is very thorough, but it kind of gives an evidence that the employer and the people, they take keen interest in getting to know the applicants, whether it was through the questions that were asked in the video interview or even the in-person interviews that happened with senior management. And then just talking to people who already worked in the company and reading about the company, it was very clear that the people of the firm and the culture is a top priority. And there were loads of opportunities that were evident or that I learned about through speaking to other graduates who were part of the company. And there is enough responsibilities provided as part of the grad program which enable your progress through your career and really kickstarts it. So here I am 3 years later.
Thanks so much. And Ben, as a current graduate, just starting the second year of the programme, could you just talk to us a bit about your background and how you came to be here?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lucinda. Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Loftus. I'm currently on the graduate program here at SMBC Aviation Capital. I'm in my second year, having joined in July of 2024. I work in the technical asset management team here, and prior to starting here, I completed a degree in aerospace engineering from the Southeast Technological University in Carlow. I'd always sort of been interested in the aviation industry and the people involved in it. So when I'd done some research in college about jobs, I'd found out about the aircraft leasing industry and how big of a player SMBC Aviation Capital was. So at the time then when the graduate program came up, I had submitted an application, and then I eventually got the job, and I've been here ever since.
Thanks, Ben. Maybe you could then talk to us a bit about what is it like, how is your team working, what are they like, what does a typical day look like?
Yeah, sure, Lucinda. So, the technical team is essentially made of two parts, which is the project management team and the asset management team. So the project management team deals with redeliveries, deliveries, and the transactional type of items with lease negotiations and stuff. And then we have the asset management team who deal with the on-lease management of the aircraft from the start of the lease to the end of the lease. So typically our main responsibilities revolve around maintenance claim reviews, they revolve around mid-lease inspections. We do about 300 mid-lease inspections a year, so there's a lot of planning that goes into them. And then we support various teams around the business through acquisitions and sales, and then some of our data feeds down to feed different teams. So we work closely with different teams in the business and we get to collaborate cross-functionally.
Thanks. And Shaurya, could you tell us a bit more about the commercial analysis team, what they get up to and the ways of working there?
Yeah, so the commercial analysis team essentially plays a key role in the deal teams, and a deal team is a cross-functional team that work together on aircraft leasing transactions. Our main responsibility is structuring and pricing deals that are brought to the business by deal originators such as from airline marketing or aircraft trading. We would work cross-functionally with various teams such as technical to get the correct background and information of the aircraft, which forms our inputs into our analysis. We also work with finance to understand the accounting implications that a deal would have on the balance sheet and the profit and loss. And then altogether, all this input will feed into our analysis, which we then present to the deal team. We make recommendations. We would also run comparative analysis on competing deals. And then we would eventually use our internal models and Excel to feed more information and to give more information to deal teams. Over the past 3 years, I've worked across various types of transactions such as sale and leasebacks, acquisitions from third-party investors or sales to investors, and extension and remarketing deals as well.
Thank you so much for that insight. And having been through the graduate programme, what would you say were the key elements that really helped you to develop into the professional that you are today?
Yeah, Lucinda, I think the graduate program extremely helped me develop professionally and personally. I have gained a very strong foundation in pricing and also about the aviation industry, getting around aeronautical terms and being now fairly familiar with them. And it has also enhanced like practical skills such as financial modeling, advanced use of Excel. What really stood out through the grad program is that you're allowed responsibility to work on live deals that really that kind of basically showcases that the trust the team has will build confidence eventually. And all this happens in a very safe space where you're surrounded by great people who are always there to answer questions and any queries that you get when you get stuck somewhere. And you have amazing mentors. And over the 3 years, I have built great relationships with people in my team as well as outside my team, which have also contributed to build my personal brand as well as at SMBC.
That's really great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And Ben, when you reflect on the first year of the programme, what would you say was your highlight?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough, Lucinda, to be able to go out and, due to the nature of the job, get to travel. So some of the highlights would be, most recently, a couple of weeks ago, I got the chance to attend the table inspection of an engine in Hamburg, which is where we do a piece part inspection before the engine is reassembled. And then prior to that then, back in April, I got to go on a delivery for a 787. We were taking that back from one of our airline customers and transitioning it on to the next operator. And then, you know, we get to work with airlines and we get to work with MROs and we get to go down and visit them and get their opinion. So it's been really transformative to be able to be quite customer facing at times and be on the road and be able to put the stuff that you learn in the office into practice.
Great. No, that sounds like some amazing opportunities that you've had, Ben. Thank you for sharing. And Shaurya, when you look back on the 3 years that you've had in the business, what would you say has been your highlight?
I would definitely say that working like in the company was in itself a great opportunity, but I would like to highlight the work that I would have done or I would have participated through the committees and platforms such as CSR and Sports and Social. So I joined the Sports and Social Committee in the first year of my grad program, and I was I was voted to organize a Halloween event at our former office at Molesworth Street, which was about 2 years ago now. And it was extremely great because I was able to coordinate and organize that event with people who I might have not really worked with in the past, which was great just to break the ice and learn from, just interact with people. And it was a great success. And another highlight that I would remember is the go-karting event that was again organized by the Sports and Social Committee. It was probably only a month into me joining the company. It was organized then, and I think it was a tremendous ice-breaking activity for me because I was not only able to talk to people outside of a work environment within my team, as well as interact with people who were outside my team. So it was really a good bonding experience for me.
Great, it's great to hear how you've really engaged with the wider offering of the programme outside of the job, so thank you for sharing. And I guess it's probably not that long ago that you were in the position of the people who are watching today, you know, completing graduate application forms. It probably seems quite daunting. If you could give one piece of advice, Shaurya, to the people tuned in today, when completing the application form or going through this process, what would that piece of advice be?
I think my biggest advice would be just to take some time with yourself and reflect on what excites you about this industry, or joining SMBC, and reflect that in your application and in your interviews as well. And definitely if you have experiences or any examples that you could also highlight, because I genuinely feel that the passion and enthusiasm is very clear to employers, and it's not only good for them to know, but it's also beneficial for yourself because it would drive your motivation when you join the program, when you start your job, and help you succeed in your career ahead.
Thanks. And Ben, same question to you. What would you like to give as your piece of advice?
Yeah, my piece of advice would be, you know, to be clear about your interests and how they align with the business. And then another thing I think is to really highlight any previous experience that you have, technical or non-technical. I think it's important even when you're in college to get involved in group projects and to be putting the best foot forward. I think that's very important, and you need to be showing the people, the HR team here, what you're capable of and stuff. So that'd be my advice.
Great, thanks. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to talk through the recruitment journey, so the various dates and elements that make up the application process and some top tips, and then Diarmuid is going to talk about the interview preparation side and the things that he looks for as an interviewer. So I guess the process starts with the online application form, which is easily accessible through our website. So the applications are open now, and they're open until midday on the 17th of October. So you'll see on the screen here sort of a flow chart of the different stages of the process. So I'll just talk to that now and share some tips to help you prepare effectively. So the application form, I think, it's really important that you dedicate time to this. Do not leave it to the last minute, because there are several elements to the application form, and some of those parts do require you to give longer answers where you need to put a bit of thought and structure into it. So I would really recommend, if you haven't already taken a look at the application form, to do so, because you've still got 4 weeks to apply, and you can do bits each day or each week between now and then. I would also recommend not leaving the submission itself to the last minute. I know sometimes it is tempting, when the pressure's on, you're sort of completing the application form, press go with only a few minutes to spare, and then you could encounter some technical issues, and then panic is going to set in. So if you can, I really, really would encourage you to have the application ready for submission 1 or 2 days in advance of the 17th, just in case anything does happen. You've still got time on your side to still meet the deadline. For the questions that are a bit longer, so there are some competency-based questions in the application form. So would recommend drafting your answers maybe on a Word document, just thinking about structure. And Diarmuid will talk to this actually when he talks about the interview itself, but using the STAR technique to help structure your answers communication is one of the key skills that we're looking for from the applicants. So our first way to assess your written communication is the application form. So you want to make sure that this is really in the best possible place it can be. So thinking about your answers, but also thinking about what you want to get across. We want to know about you as a person. So think about what is it about you that you want us to know, and making sure that you're really communicating that, as well as communicating your passion and genuine interests for SMBC Aviation Capital and for the industry itself. So I would really recommend that you take some time to go away, research the industry, research us, look on our website, look on our LinkedIn, look in the news. There's lots of information out there to inform you on us as a business, and then take away what is it that's really, really drawing you to want to work for us, and make sure that that's communicated in the application form, because it's the application forms that are tailored to us that are going to stand out versus an application form that's quite generic and could have been sent to any business. Lastly, before you are pressing the submit button, when you've been looking at the same form for hours, your eyes will become immune to small typos, grammatical errors. So I would really recommend getting either a friend, a family member, or a tutor from college to have a read over the form, not only to pick out, potential typos or things that perhaps don't make sense, but also ask them, am I putting my best self forward in this application? Is my personality coming across? Is my passion coming across? And get them to give you some feedback before you then send it on to us. I guess then, once you've sent the application in, you probably want to know what happens next. So you will be asked then to complete a numerical reasoning test. So you will get that in a separate link from us in an email. So again, take your time on this, find a quiet space where you're not going to have any interruptions, where you have a stable internet connection as well, because you will need time privately to go through the questions. Read the questions carefully before you answer them. There will be a practice question at the start of the test just to give you an idea of how it's worded, the sort of things it's going to be asking. And for the numerical reasoning, it's really important that you do have a calculator to hand as well. The application is then reviewed by our recruitment team, but also from people across the business as well who will help with shortlisting. One thing I would like to call out is that we do not use AI in our recruitment processes, so your application will be read by one of us in the business. And then, providing you are shortlisted, the next stage of the process would be that you're invited to complete a short interview via a video. Now, this is a pre-recorded interview. It won't be in live time with people on the other end. It will be you log into a platform, and I will be asking you some pre-recorded questions, and you'll have a set time frame in which to answer those. So again, make sure that you've given yourself plenty of time and a private space with a good internet connection, because when you do answer the questions, you don't have the chance to retake them. My main piece of advice for this round would be, once you've heard me ask you the question, just take a few seconds, think about the question before you go into your answer, and try and answer again with structure. So coming back to that STAR technique that we'll be talking to shortly, and try and use specific examples when it is asked so that we get a real feel for your experience. And also, again, communicate your passion, interest and enthusiasm for the opportunity that is on offer here. In tandem with the video interview, you will also be asked to do a verbal reasoning assessment. So similarly to the numerical reasoning, it will be a set of questions done online in a time setting. So although you won't need a calculator for this one, it's the same advice. Give yourself time, read the question thoroughly before you answer. Read it twice if you have to. It's best to really understand the question and answer it right than sort of rush through and potentially not do them as well as you could. So then we'll move on to sort of the December time frame when that round is being completed. And the next stage of the process is then an interview with 2 people from the business. So you will be invited to this interview in December. It will be via Teams because we appreciate that a lot of applicants may not be based in Dublin or even within Ireland. So just for ease, it will be a Teams interview, and it will be a chance for members of the business to really get to know you and for you to get to know us. And it's very much a two-way process. As much as we're assessing you, you're assessing us. I think the one thing to be clear about is that it's a big commitment, your graduate programme, so you really need to prepare and give it your all. Then the final stage of the process in January is again another interview, but this time you will be invited to our offices in person, and you'll again meet 2 people from the business. And alongside that, over the Christmas period, if you are shortlisted for that part of the process, you will be invited to complete a personality assessment. So that is really a case of answering the questions authentically and genuinely as you would. You just need to think about, it will ask you about different situations and how do you react. There's absolutely no right or wrong for this assessment. It's just us getting to know you a bit more, and the insights from that assessment will then inform the competency questions that we ask in the final round interview. So I'm going to hand over now to Diarmuid, who's going to talk a bit more about the interview and how to prepare, but also what he would look for from a candidate from the interviewer side of the table.
Thanks for that, Lucinda. So look, interviews, as we all know, can be a time where people get nervous. It's important that you come in to it relaxed. And they're structured to last approximately 1 hour. Now, if it's a little bit less, that just means that the interviews have got what they need from you, so it's not something to worry about, but typically around about 1 hour. And now we do aim for our interview panels to have diversity in terms of gender and background on them, so it will be a well-rounded session that you'll go through. Now, all of our interviewers will ask you what we call competency questions. So we want to hear about real-life examples that you've had. And now that could be something from your college life, or project you worked on. It could be something from home life, or it could be something from a part-time job that you had. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about putting your best foot forward and giving the interviewers as much of yourself as you can so they get to know you better and get a good feel for you. So preparation essentially is key to all of this. Prepare your examples using, as Lucinda referred to earlier, what we call the STAR technique, and I'll talk about that in a second, but that gives you a structure to ensure that the key details you want covered come out in the interview and you get to showcase your experience and that it matches what we're looking for. So the STAR acronym is situation, task, action and result. The situation, that's where you set the scene. What was happening, what was the context, so that the interviewer has some sense on what the situation was and what the challenges were that you faced. What was the task? What was it actually that you needed to do and achieve in this situation? That moves on into what actions you took yourself, and it's not necessarily the actions that a broader team took. What actions did you actually take yourself as an individual to get the result that was required? And then what was the result? Now, not all results are successful, but it's important that you give an indication as to what you did and how you tried to actually get the result that was necessary. So in terms of the competencies that we're assessing, these would include things like your communication and influencing skills, what's your approach to problem solving and adaptability. And if there's any point in a question that's not clear, ask the interviewers. They want to get you to have a clear understanding as to what they're trying to arrive at in terms of your competency, and your success in delivering that will be through you understanding clearly what has been asked of you. So ask questions if you're not clear exactly what they're looking for. It's really important that you're clear in your communication, and that's where the preparation really comes in. Why are you interested in SMBC Aviation Capital? What is it that you are eager to learn going through the graduate program? You know, do your research on the organization, and there's plenty of information online, so remember all that, have it in your head, and just be ready to discuss why you're really interested in joining SMBC Aviation Capital. Our website and LinkedIn are a great source of information on that, so there's plenty available for you. Commercial awareness is key. This is a very commercial business. We're in the business of doing deals, so everything ultimately that happens has a commercial nature to it. So keep up to date with current affairs. Everything that happens globally ultimately affects our business. Geopolitics is something that we're very, very focused on. So it'd be important for you to have an understanding of current affairs, global events that will impact our business and our customers. It could be the price of oil, it could be geopolitical events in Asia or in the Americas. All of that is potentially relevant at an interview stage. The final bit of it will be an opportunity for you to ask some questions of the interview panel yourself and give that some thought before you go in. It's a two-way process. So it's in Aviation Capital, we're trying to understand what you're like and how you would fit in our business. But it's important that you actually understand a bit about us and how you feel you would fit in our company. So you're assessing us as much as we're assessing you. Your career aspirations are really important, so take the opportunity to ask the questions and give as much to the interviews as you can through that process. I think that's broadly it, Lucinda. So I'll hand back over to you for the next part of it.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dim. It's some really good advice there. And as mentioned, the slides and the recording will be available afterwards today. So you can go back and listen to this again if you are successful in being shortlisted for an interview to help with the preparation. So when you guys signed up for the event today, we asked if there was any questions that you would like us to answer on the session. And obviously there were lots of great questions. We were really impressed to see some of them. And unfortunately, we don't have time to answer all of them. So we have selected 2 questions that seem to be the most frequently asked. But obviously, as we've touched on there, the interview is going to be a great opportunity, and some of the more specific business related questions that some of you asked in the form there would be great things to then bring up and discuss in the interview. So definitely save them for further down the line. So the questions that we're going to answer today, firstly, one of the ones was, what does success look like in the first 12 months? And it's so great to see that you guys are already thinking that far ahead about the sort of value and impact that you'll be able to make on the graduate programme in that first year. So I suppose, and I'm going to give my thoughts, and then I'm going to get Shaurya and Ben to also contribute because they're the ones that have been through it. And Diarmuid as well, feel free to chip in. But I suppose for me, the graduates that really stand out and, you know, hit the ground running and go on to be really successful are the ones that come in with the enthusiasm and the curiosity. You know, they're not afraid to ask questions, and they just, you know, they get really stuck in. They come in with a great energy, but they have that curiosity. You know, they want to know why we do things. They want to know more about their role and how their role fits in the wider function and the wider business. So I would say if you are successful on joining us or any graduate program, just ask the questions. No question is too silly, and really get, you know, under what is expected of you in your role. Really understand the role as best you can. But yeah, passing it over, Shaurya, what would you say?
I would definitely agree with whatever you have just said, Lucinda. I think the only thing that I want to add would be like someone who is ready to build like strong relationships with the team and colleagues across the business based on the company values, and also someone who's hardworking, motivated, and has great interest in the work that they're doing, and which is going to enable them to enjoy their jobs even more.
Yeah, super important there. Yeah. Thank you. And Ben, anything to add?
Yeah, just off the back of what you just said, I think it's important in your first 12 months to really get an idea of what your team does and where you fit in and the work that everybody else does. I think that's very important. It gives you a good basis, and then I think it's important as well to learn the systems that you use every day, and you know the people that you work with frequently. And then I think, you know, outside the office then we've lots of great initiatives here. There's, you know, hill walking clubs, there's running clubs, and the sports and social scene is very active. So I think it's very important to get out there and talk to people outside the office who you normally wouldn't talk to maybe. So I think that's what success would look like.
Thanks. And Diarmuid, I suppose as somebody who's managed graduates in the business from the beginning of the programme, like what would you say, you know, is a success for you in the first 12 months?
Yeah, good question. I mean, success is somebody who's really rolled up their sleeves and got involved in the business, whether that be, and I think, you know, we heard it earlier on, whether that be sports and social events or some of the more cultural events we have and CSR. But when it comes to actual work and day-to-day work, I think those have had the curiosity to ask the questions and get involved in the business and why the business needs a piece of information and needs a piece of data and how the decisions get made around that. Curiosity around that really is what drives success. I mean, in my own team, which is procurement. So we're responsible for buying the aircraft and taking delivery of them in the factory. So we just had Lorcan come out of the graduate program on our team. So he had gone from coming in day one knowing very little about the business or the industry to, by the time he was coming close to the end of his second year, actually being our representative in Hamburg, delivering an aircraft to our customer, acting as a liaison between the manufacturer Airbus and the airline customer, and making sure they were happy to take the aircraft. So, you know, that's a lot in a short 2-year journey. So Lorcan was able to do that because he had the curiosity to get involved in the business, to understand what the transactions were. He went on a couple of deliveries with his colleagues at the factory and understood the process, and he demonstrated that he had the ability to actually handle the relationship management piece with the customer, but also to be firm with the manufacturer when need be. And he wasn't on there on his own. Everybody was just a phone call away, but he actually on his own took that aircraft from completion in the assembly of the factory through to delivery of the customer. And that's the kind of thing you can get involved in as a graduate here.
Yeah, and that leads on really nicely to the second question that we were going to touch on there, Diarmuid, is around, you know, what are the types of transactions, projects, deals that graduates do get the opportunity to be involved in, and what sort of level of responsibility can be obtained?
Yeah, well, it very much depends, I think, on the team that you're actually in. So if you're in the pricing team, for example, you're going to be the center of every deal, because as a commercial business, it all comes down to the numbers. So the numbers on the rent on an aircraft, the purchase price of that aircraft, how long the lease term is, and what kind of maintenance compensation situation is in the deal. They're all a set of numbers that need to be crunched, along with prevailing interest rates and the structure around the financing of the aircraft. Crunch all those numbers, and then that is a key piece of the information involved around making the decision on whether to do a deal or not, because we don't do all deals that we bid on. So that's the pricing team. If you're in the risk team, you're going to be looking at, for example, an airline structure, their business plan, you know, their accounts, how well they're doing, what their forward bookings look like, and trying to understand their business and whether they're ultimately going to be a successful partner for us to give an aircraft to. If you're in the airline marketing team, for example, you know, you could be involved in background checks on airlines and what kind of assets they need, when they're going to need them, what their own order book is, where they need supplementary aircraft, what kind of growth patterns they have. You know, so it's anything from the whole financing through to the actual doing a deal, getting the aircraft delivered, managing the aircraft while it's on lease with that customer. And then the process starts again with a used aircraft where it's coming off lease and needs to be delivered to a new customer that we found a home for, and you recycle it all over again. So it's very transactional. Everybody in the business ultimately has a sense of what's going on in the deals. So having a commercial head on your shoulders is a big advantage. But the decision making, you know, you have access to why decisions are made and how they get made, and you'll be feeding information into those decisions, which needs to be accurate so that we make the right decisions rather than the wrong decisions.
Thanks so much, Diarmuid. So that's it from us today. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who was tuned in to listen, but also thank you to Diarmuid, Shaurya and Ben for joining me this afternoon. Hopefully you found it insightful, and hopefully you're now feeling inspired to go and submit an application to our 2026 graduate programme. And thank you again for your time.